I'm Chair of Rotaract. I'm the convener of Membership Voice, which is all about helping our membership specialists in Rotary share ideas and the like. I'm really pleased to introduce tonight's presenter, Beck Fry. Beck is a member of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley and is also the founder of a new online Rotary Club in Australia. She knows what works in terms of engaging members remotely. And so tonight she's going to be sharing some ideas and options, bearing in mind that you know your team. And so bringing these ideas in and using them as a basis of working out what you do with your team. It's really, really important to apply that local touch too. But Beck brings a huge level of relevant experience to this. She's been in non-profit leadership for over a decade now, has served in several senior Rotary and Rotaract roles, including Chair of Rotaract Australia. Beck currently sits on the Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee. She's one of the co-founders of RYLA Oceania, which is a fantastic initiative. And professionally, she works in corporate strategy and local government, where she brings her strategic expertise into play. But I'm delighted to introduce Rebecca Fry.
Thanks so much, Caro. And so firstly, thank you for the opportunity. It looks like we've just hit the 50 participant mark, and I wanted to basically take my hat off to everyone who has joined tonight. I appreciate that everyone's going through a lot of different challenges at the moment, likely in their personal lives, or some in their work lives, and there's a lot of uncertainty around. But it's great to see that there's so many people who are keen to look at how we can maintain momentum through our organisation of Rotary. And to be honest, I think there's a huge opportunity here as well. Rotary is based on community service. We're a community service organisation. And, it's really times like these where community service really comes to the fore as well. So I wanted to just start. So Caro, provide a bit of background about me. I just wanted to do a quick shout out that Rotaract Australia is also hosting another webinar tonight, and that will also be recorded. So in terms of other resources, there's a lot of different groups that are trying to provide this level of support at the moment. And I think the way that, just building on what Caro said, you do know your club's best. You'll know the capacity and appetite of your clubs the best in terms of developing solutions that will work for them. I'm going to provide a lot of different options tonight, and that isn't intended to overwhelm. It's intended to provide a taste of different things that may pique your interest. And if then there are certain elements that you'd like to explore further, we can look at developing some dedicated sessions in and around that. But I think as a starting point, it's really just good to get people thinking about how they can develop the solutions that will work for their clubs, rather than just providing instructional guidance to say this is exactly because what will work for one club won't work for another. And you'll see that as well. So I am currently in an eClub, the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, but that eClub works differently to the new club that I'm starting, works differently to a lot of traditional eClubs as well. So we'll start to see that there are a lot of different options, and that will serve you well in terms of tailoring things. Now, I just wanted to start with a reflection piece. So for those of you who can find the comments. This is one of my favourite quotes, which I feel is really important at this particular time, just given, the level of uncertainty. So the quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And the reason that I want to flag that is because each of you here are representing, whether it's your club, whether it's your district, whether you're here as an interested member who wants to just help your club. And I just wanted to highlight the power of what you can actually do as an individual and as people who collaborate in that sense. What I wanted to do just quickly in the chat was to get an understanding of why you are here. So is it that you are looking to hold the fort until, you can start to meet in person again? Is it just to try and continue some social engagement? Is it that someone said, we've got this problem now that we can't meet and we need you to solve it? So are you like an allocated person to attend this meeting? Or what are you basically looking to hope to get out of tonight? Holding the fort is something I'm seeing. Looking out for each other, which is good as well. Holding the fort, continuing connection. Okay, all of the above. Broadening knowledge, hearing alternatives to doing service, keeping members engaged, continuing to connect, Zoom, and communication. All right, so lots of common themes. Looking for good ideas is one that's out there as well. So I think, there's a lot of common themes there, which is good to see. And all of those things will be touched on tonight. So I can assure you that by the end of this meeting, you'll have some good places to continue to move on from here. Now, I think a mindset element's also really important. A lot of clubs have had to cancel events, districts have had to change their conferences, and many of you would have seen today that Rotary International has had to cancel or postpone or cancel the Rotary International Convention. So, we are, all feeling this element of we'll say disappointment, but let's use that as energy to shift into determination to keep things going, to keep our communities going, and to continue to connect and keep ourselves going in that sense as well. All right, so what specifically will we cover? So I will touch on meetings. I'll touch on the social connection piece. We'll specifically delve into projects. Leadership development is also something that we'll look at, maintaining inspiration, and then we'll head into next steps and references. So I just wanted to give you an indication of where we're headed tonight. So meetings, obviously meetings are a huge part of what we do in Rotary generally. We've come from a meeting-based organisation where clubs were mandated to meet weekly over a meal, with a guest speaker. So meetings are really a core part of what we do, and a lot of that has changed over the years, but at the end of the day, we do still tend to meet. Now, the reason that I ask why are we meeting is because that will actually change the types of solutions that you'll look for. If you understand what the meeting purpose is for the attendees, you can start to develop a suitable digital solution. So Zoom's one of those examples, but there are many others as well, which you'll start to see. The other thing is that you're holding, is your meeting a club meeting? Is it a district meeting? Are you trying to keep a project going? And like I said, are you holding the fort or keen to explore online options, or all of the above? So things that our meetings tend to include. So we've got social connection. We know fellowship is a huge value of Rotary, and meeting face-to-face. Often people say there's nothing like meeting face-to-face, and, even just having those opportunities to talk to each other before you have the meeting, catch up. And, in some circumstances, I fully acknowledge as well that this is, it's a weekly social event for people as well that is underpinned by service. In terms of projects, do we have projects that need to continue to move during this period? Do we want to actually look at new projects that might be relevant to what's happening in the world with COVID-19 at the moment? Often we have a guest speaker with our meetings. Sometimes that's just for inspiration in terms of learning a new element about an area that we didn't know, whether it's a profession and vocation related, whether it's actually hearing about a really great project that maybe your club has been involved in. And there's also the professional development element as well, such as running a meeting, writing minutes, and maintaining and managing people, and then combination. So a lot of us have said a combination is, what we're looking for, but I would really encourage you to understand from an individual perspective, and also with your members, if you look at that list, and maybe you've got a couple of others as well, what is the order of priority of those different elements? And the reason that I say that is because there are different solutions that will be better for maintaining social connection compared to different tools that are relevant for maintaining projects, for example. So I think that the why is really important and shouldn't be undervalued. And I would highly recommend as individuals, and like I said, and as your club, work out what are the most important things to you at this point in time. So if we start to look at digital solutions just as a starting point, what I want to do is go through different digital solutions and then we can start to go into how they're actually used in practice for the things that I've just listed. So I'm going to start in most of these circumstances from the easiest option to a more complicated option. If you get to a point where you feel as though the content's gotten too complex, then I would just, hit pause and focus yourself and just focus on the things that do make sense, because we will be coming back and focusing in on those elements specifically. I just wanted to basically provide a range of things from, like I said, the easiest to the more complex, because the more complex systems do actually enable greater integration. So I think it's important to cover all things, but I'll try to go, like I said, from easy to more complex. So the first system that I wanted to talk about is WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is a messaging service. It's a messaging app that works on your phone. And essentially, it's very similar to just sending text messages on your phone. But what it enables you to do, if you can see here, is you can actually create groups. So this says Whitman's Chat and Stewart Family and Lunch Group. It's the weekend. So what you can do, if there are a lot of Rotary clubs that actually use this, generally speaking, and you could have different groups in here for your Rotary clubs. So you could have a general one where everyone is messaging, but then you could also have additional ones which might be community projects, international projects, just for fun, so that you can still share like jokes or sergeant or things that you could do. But basically it's a single app. It's just like messaging. You can share photos, you can record your voice, and in terms of just staying connected at a base level, it's the most similar to anything that's currently on your phone. That's the reason why I've shared WhatsApp in that context. Kara, given the amount of things that we're going through and the sequential order, did you want to take questions as we go in some circumstances, or do you just want me to push through?
Well, I think pushing through is better. Because we can always backtrack and look. If people pop the questions in as you go, but we deal with them at the end, because I think otherwise, if we get to something that's really popular, we could really disrupt your flow. So let's keep going. But encourage everyone to pop their questions in as they think of them.
I agree with that as well. And the thing that I'll say is the purpose of this talk is not to, like I said, provide you with all the, an all-encompassing solution to understand how to use each of these platforms right now. It's purely a reference point, or a starting point to look at what you can explore in your own time, and also then what we can get further support to explore together. So WhatsApp is essentially a messaging service where, like I said, you can connect in with each other as you would on a normal phone. So it's like messaging on a normal phone. It just gives you the advantage that you can group things a little bit more effectively. Now, a Facebook group is another platform that's really good from a social perspective. I do have an example of our so this is a photo of the Rotary eClub Silicon Valley members only Facebook group. So we have a Facebook page, which is our external page that we can communicate to anyone, but our members only group is just for members. So you'll see at the time that this shot was taken, which was February last year, there were 34 members internally. what I have here is an example of, so this is our new Rotary Club, and this is the group that we have just for our new Rotary Club. It's a private group. You can only get access if you request access to this group. So we've got 252 members in here at the moment. And what you can do, it's just similar to Facebook in terms of creating posts and the like, but it gives you an opportunity to talk about different things. This talks about we're looking to charter soon. We've then got things like the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley held a webinar on Monday, which I'll show you where you can find that recording. So I just let everyone know that there's this webinar that's coming up. So it's a good way to share information in a way that is still contained to your members and allows you to chat and connect to each other. And obviously one of the advantages is that Facebook is more and more commonly used these days. My nan is on Facebook because she knows that that's a great way to stay in touch with me. And so a lot of older people are getting on Facebook, which is great. And the benefit of a platform like this is it's very familiar. And it just allows you to stay connected on a whole host of things. You can share articles, you can share videos. So it's a good way to stay in touch. And it's a good way to do calls to action as well. So when we want to do something in our club, we can write a post here to say, this was what we wanted to do for International Women's Day. We say we're looking for 5 to 10 volunteers to send us in a photo for this campaign. And so we have people say, yep, I'll be part of this. So it's just highlighting how you can stay engaged and active, even but just by using an internal private Facebook group. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was Zoom meetings. So obviously you're all on this Zoom meeting tonight, and congratulations if it's your first Zoom meeting. Zoom meetings are effective if you want to catch up with a number of people at once to talk about the same thing. They can be used for socials, they can be used for formal meetings, they can be used to manage projects if you have a project team. There is a few training sessions that are being done at the moment specifically on setting up Zoom meetings, how to host them, how to run them. And I do have a link to one that's being run tomorrow at the end of this talk. But given that there's a lot of focus on Zoom at the moment, I will, rather than deep diving just on Zoom, we'll keep talking through some of the other options, and then we can come back to questions at the end. Now, there's 3 other things that I wanted to talk about. So one is newsletters, one is blogs, and one is portals. And again, these get more complex as we go. So from a newsletters perspective, you probably have all received what's called so the program's called MailChimp. You've probably actually all received a MailChimp email before but not realised it. And basically MailChimp is a program that allows you to easily create dynamic, attractive, interactive newsletters. So I know a lot of Rotary Clubs that I go to still do a newsletter. For some of them, it's a Word document that they email around. But with something like MailChimp, you can actually insert videos, insert pictures, insert hyperlinks. So this is a newsletter that we created when we were running RYLA Oceania. We wanted to say, our website's now live. So if you clicked on the link, then it would bring up our website straight from the newsletter. So there's our lovely website. Similarly, we talked about applications are now open. So if you clicked on the applications icon, it would take you specifically to the Apply Now page. We didn't have any videos for this particular one, but you can insert videos as well. And it also gives you the opportunity for people to subscribe to your mailing list as well. So instead of you having to keep a manual list, people can actually sign up, which means that new people can join all the time, which is really easy as well. People can, we had a contact us link here as well. So it's just a really easy way to push information out like I said, in an interactive way. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was blogs. And the reason that blogs is valuable is because blogs are actually a way that you can create quite a traditional Rotary meeting. Same with Zoom. So for context, I'll use Zoom as the example first. Zoom actually enables you to run your traditional meeting exactly the way that you would normally run, except that it's online. So you can have, if you would create an agenda just in the same way that you've previously had an agenda, and you'd say, great, so the first thing is we'll have a welcome from the president. So the president will talk first. We'll then have, an update on, what's been happening in our community projects. Maybe you do still have a youth exchange student here, or you, have a Rotary alumni person that you want to engage with, so you can still have them come and talk at your meeting as well. You can still have a guest speaker, they just speak online, and you can still have that joke time and fellowship and the like as well. So just like a normal meeting, except that you're all on video. Now, the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley also has a very I'll say traditional meeting format, in that we have, so you'll see a president's message, we recognise people's birthdays, we have some jokes, we have some inspiration, we look at members. If you come down here, we do have where it says this week's program, that's where our guest speaker is. But the format of this, so it's a little bit more static, is that all of the elements of our meeting are just in a running blog. And there are really easy blog templates that are online as well. We can provide some more support around this if you think that this is an attractive option. But if you jump online to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley and click Attend Meeting, you'll just see the content that they've got. So Shvatko is our president, so he's recorded his welcome. We do a recording of the 4-way test every week, so you can still have the 4-way test, or if you do Grace or Toast to the Queen or National Anthem, you actually can still do traditional elements, or you can use this as an opportunity to decide that maybe that's not something you want to continue. Like I said, we talk about birthdays, we have jokes, and there's a whole host of content that we would normally put in a traditional meeting. It doesn't have to be this long either. For context, to get through the meeting, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, which is similar to what you would do in a normal Rotary meeting. This is our pre-recorded guest speaker. If I was to hit play, it will show a Zoom meeting because they record it on Zoom.
Hey, buddy. 59 years ago this month, President.
I went too early. Oh no, I'm getting confused. That's a message about happy birthday to the Peace Corps. Sorry, our guest presentation, I know that it was here. Now I've made it confusing. This week's program, there we go. Let's do that. That's taking too long to load. That's okay. Moral of the story is there are a lot of videos that are embedded in here, and one of them is our presentation from this week. The presentation for this week has actually been focusing on what Rotarians can do in terms of engaging remotely. So there's another good resource that you can use. The other consideration is instead of actually trying to create this content every week or content like this every week, you can jump online to an eClub like the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley and just follow their content. What they have at the bottom is a portal. There we go. There we go. When clubs can't meet, where to find your Rotary inspiration. So this is the video from their meeting that they held last week. And then at the bottom, you've got the opportunity to actually log in and write comments. So they've had 47 comments so far. Great and timely meeting. I think it'll go viral in our district. Great program. Happy birthday, Kelly. So there's ways that people can view this in their own time, but still collaborate. The reason that Silicon Valley uses this is because we're a global eClub, so our members do come from all over the world, and by having it in this format, we don't all have to meet at the same time in the same place. It means that we can jump and look at it when is relevant to us. So it's an effective format. It's a way to leverage existing content. It does take a little bit of work to develop this type of content, so it's probably not the first option that you're going to look at, but it's something that you could look at down the track, particularly if there is content that you want to continue to share as well. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show in regards to different platform types is Microsoft Teams. So some of you might have used Microsoft Teams either through other non-profit organisations or for those who are working. This is becoming a big thing that's being rolled out in corporates at the moment. It's basically a Microsoft application similar to Word or PowerPoint. And what it is so we've decided that as a new Rotary Club, we're not actually going to hold meetings at all. What we're going to do is we have these channels, and each channel is a different topic that allows people to get involved in what they want to get involved in. So we've got some social elements like our board game buddies. We've got a book club that we run. We've got people who are interested in disaster relief, environmental sustainability. We have a finance group so that we can manage our club finances. We have the foundation and Polio Now. And basically you can build this out so that it's not difficult to do. It looks more complicated than it is, but you can build this out so that all of these different topics can be anything that is relevant to your club. So you might be doing a project at the moment. You might have a really big focus on Nepal. So one of these channels might actually be called Nepal. You also might have some people who happen to be, they like to bushwalk, and at the moment we're not in lockdown, we can still go outside. So yeah, we have a bushwalking group as well. But yeah, essentially the advantage of a system like this is that people can connect in just with the content that they're interested in, rather than having to receive all content at once. You can also have private channels as well. So we have this has a little padlock. So we have a private channel just for the president and vice president, just so that we can discuss, what our next steps are at the moment, rather than everyone having access to all of our conversations as well. So it's a very different platform, but it's not actually that hard. Each channel, so if we went to governance, for example, you can see that, we're talking about comparing our constitution with the Rotary International constitution that we've been provided that has New South Wales fair trading. I've then been able to comment and talk about how that comparison of the Constitution went. It's all very exciting stuff, naturally, but essentially you can see how it starts to work. Similar to Facebook, you can like things, you can add emoticons, etc. So it's a good way to continue to interact, and it's just ongoing. So it's in a way where your Rotary meeting is just for one, an hour a week. These sorts of platforms are active 24/7, which enables people to just continue that connection as well. So there are a few examples of different platforms. I now wanted to delve into how do we actually use them. So how do we connect socially? And we know that social connection is probably going to be one of the biggest things for us during this time. So in talking about social connection, how do we maintain social engagement when we just want to focus on that social element? A lot of talk's been happening at the moment about phone call trees. So how do we have people within our Rotary Clubs, whether it's your board, whether it's an exec, whether it's a particular task force, who are responsible just for phone calling each of the members, whether it's each week, whether it's every fortnight, whatever it looks like, whether it's at the time that your normal meeting is, just to give them a call and make sure that they're okay. One of the things that we do using Zoom is what we call happy hour. So happy hour is literally where we'll decide on a particular day we're all going to dial in at this time, and all we do is have a social catch-up. So sometimes it's good to have prompting questions. It might be, what's the highlight being for this week? You might have people write in the chat as a starting point, and then if someone's got something particularly interesting, you could get them to share that story. With happy hour, we absolutely have had a case where we've all had, a glass of wine or beer or whatever it is that we want, and so we're enjoying that remotely while we're actually engaging as well. You should also be able to use WhatsApp. So I spoke about WhatsApp before. So Zoom and WhatsApp should function similarly in that respect. But in that case, I would absolutely put videos on. So unlike tonight where we've said everyone shut your video down, put your video on, see each other, say hi, and connect in that sense. Another program that we have, which is incredibly popular, is called Coffee with a Rotarian. Coffee with a Rotarian is, instead of a group catch-up, it's a one-on-one catch-up. So generally we'll have one person in our club is responsible for matching everyone up. And so if I got paired with Kero and I would have to organise whether we do it per month, but you could do it for whatever interval you feel is possible or reasonable. So Kero and I would just have to go, all right, this month, this is when we'll catch up. I'll have my coffee, Kero will have his coffee, and we just have a one-on-one catch up. One of the things that's really nice about Coffee with a Rotarian is that you actually have that one-on-one element, sometimes with members that you haven't necessarily had that opportunity before. I know that when I was there are a number of Rotarians that I've known for years and years, and you sit next to them at a meeting, and it's not until years later that you get to have a bit more of a deeper conversation than what you've been up to this week, how's the weather, this meal's a little bit average, like all of those really surface level things. Coffee with a Rotarian actually gives you the opportunity to have a proper chat, and I've learned some amazing things from Rotarians who have had really interesting career backgrounds or have got really interesting plans for the future. Clubs that are traditional clubs have also said it's a really good way, if they've got members who are sick or who aren't well enough to attend a meeting, they can actually, have a way of including them as well. Now, another way to maintain social connection is through a weekly check-in post or email. So it could be as simple as sending an email to all of your members. You'll know whether your members like email or hate email, so I'll leave that one in your hands. But you could just send an email to say, how's everyone going this week? And they can either respond all or just respond to you. What we have done is we have done this on Facebook, and I'll just try to find one of our previous ones. That's still our campaign. But we generally do, there was a point when we were doing a weekly check-in and we just called it Highlight of the Week. And so we'd say, we'd love you to post a video or share an update from the week that's been. It's a great way for us to connect, for our members around the world. We welcomed a couple of new people to our group that day who weren't necessarily looking to, join our club. They just wanted to kind of see what's going on because it's been so different. I posted and said I went, op shopping with my mum. Here's a photo. Another friend said, it was Valentine's Day and she saw a funny sign. And so it's our way. Photos do have a lot to provide visually. So another friend went to an art shop, an art workshop. One of our other members is really talented and actually does her own markets, which is cool. And it can be, if they don't have a photo, that's fine too, but it's a good opportunity to say, you know what, I got a new job, or we've had a niece that's been born, or we've had this really tough time at the moment. It's a good way to just connect. It is a really great way to connect on a personal level. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to social connection is a little bit out of the box, but I still think it's a really good thing to flag. So if you haven't heard of Rotary Fellowships before, Rotary Fellowships are global groups that meet together on particular topics of social interest. So here's the list. If you Google Rotary Fellowships, this will all come up, but you honestly have everything from military veterans to bird watching. There's a PDG group, public health, which is particularly interesting at the moment. But you've got magicians, cycling, like there's honestly everything you can think of. I'm a member of two of these fellowships. One is the Surfing Fellowship, which have done some really great events, and it's a great way to stay connected with people who are participating in service through surfing. And the other one that I am a member of is the Pinheads, Rotary on Pins. So I really like not just Rotary pins, I connect pins in general. You can click through all of these and it'll go to their website. So if we click on the surfing one as an example, the Surfing Fellowship comes up and it tells you all about what Rotarians who are interested in surfing are doing around the world at the moment. So I know that they've been holding some disability surfing workshops, for example. Like I said, members around the world, and a good way to just kind of expand your perspective on how to connect with people differently as well. So moving on from social connections and into projects. So what projects can we do? So again, starting with really simple things, the Australian Red Cross has done a specific call out for blood donations at the moment. I appreciate that might not be possible for everyone, particularly for those who are concerned or classified as vulnerable. But they highlighted that there were lots of donations with the Australian bushfires, and now the people who donated blood then, it hasn't been long enough for them to donate blood again. So that's just a simple thing if you wanted to share with your members. That's something that they can do to help. And it's not just about sharing with your members, it's actually sharing with the broader community as well. So if you have a Facebook page, or you have a newsletter, or you have an email list or something, you can just share broadly that, if the Australian Red Cross needs blood donations right now. It doesn't have to be something that all of your members are going to do. Now, social isolation is going to be a big one as well. Obviously, some of the strategies we've just spoken about in regards to connecting socially can be implemented beyond your club as well. While you want to keep your club active, maybe there's an opportunity for you to have a day where people, they get on with their families, or you teach them how to use Zoom so that they can, connect with their families better. Or perhaps it's connecting in and seeing that whether it's aged care homes, whether it's, people who, there's probably uni students that have moved recently and are currently in another state and don't necessarily have family around them. So that's an example as well. But yeah, essentially the social isolation piece is going to be a big one. And we don't have all the answers there in regards to projects, but Rotarians are experts at projects. So there's a good opportunity to have a look at how do we start to address some of the issues we're going to see. Now, social campaigns is an easy thing to do remotely as well. The one that I was showing you before, which was around International Women's Day. So what we did, we asked everyone to we said we wanted to promote International Women's Day. And so we said, all right, well, can our members take a photo of them while they're in this pose? And then I won't go to our... I won't go to our Facebook page now because I don't want to mess it up. But if you were to go to our Rotary Social Impact Network Facebook page, we do have a post where we've got about 6 or 7 people who have done the pose, and then that was our way of promoting International Women's Day. So it's creating awareness, and it obviously doesn't have to be International Women's Day. A really good way to do it is the UN actually has a list of days. Rotary has a list of days and months. So you'll have, there's the International Day for literacy and education, peace and conflict, harmony days coming up as well. So you can Google other sites that can tell you what days are coming up. A lot of them will have their own campaigns, and all you're doing is actually replicating what they're already asking you to do rather than having to create your own thing. Now, in regards to non-geographical projects, non-geographical projects means projects that are not geographically bound. So a lot of our Rotary clubs are in the same community, and a lot of these things can be done within your local community, but it's also looking at how do we do things now that we can't come face to face. One of the things that's come up, obviously there's a shortage of toilet paper and there's a shortage of feminine hygiene products. So a discussion that's been going on at the moment with Days for Girls is, do we actually need to potentially start creating some, reusable pads that we would normally send in kits over to developing countries? Do we actually need to create some of these packs to be used in Australia as well, particularly for those who, are in lower socioeconomic situations or haven't hoarded? So Days for Girls is an opportunity in that front. And in terms of being non-geographical, this is where you can use Zoom, where, someone can show you how to make the pads. There are instructions that are also online, be it for Days for Girls or just if you were to Google reusable fabric pad. So then, you've got the opportunity to corral not just Rotarians within your club, but maybe there's Rotarians within your district or even Australia who are interested in doing something like this, and you can come together to do that. The Op Shop Hop was a project that we did for the bushfires. The Op Shop Hop was where essentially most groups were saying that they didn't want product donated to them. They wanted cash donated to them. As younger people, we didn't have a lot of just disposable income or the ability to fundraise in a way that would be as effective as what we would have liked. But a number of the op shops, be it St Vinny's, Australian Red Cross, etc., said, if you donate your clothes to us, we can sell it to make cash that can then go into our bushfire projects. So we encouraged all of our members to do a spring clean and clean out their clothes. We had 80 bags of clothes that were donated across the month of February, and obviously then that was then revenue that could be generated for the projects for people who are experts in disaster relief, essentially. Rotary Action Groups is another option as well. So this is similar to Rotary Fellowships, except that Rotary Action Groups are centred around a cause. Now I'm just going to try and I'm just having my Zoom. That's all right. Oh, my Zoom's in the way. Give me a sec. There, no. There we go. So Rotary Action Groups. So Rotary Action Groups are similarly groups of Rotarians who are centred around a cause. So fellowships are social, action groups are cause. So there's a whole host of different causes here that people around the world in Rotary are particularly interested in, be it domestic violence, slavery, diabetes. Mental health is a huge one as well, water and sanitation. So there are ways to really help our members connect with groups of other Rotarians who are passionate about the same things that they're passionate about as well during this time. And yeah, if you're particularly inspired because you know of a cause that's not listed there, you can look at starting a new action group. But yeah, there's a whole host of different things that can be explored on that front as well. One of the really active Rotary Action Groups is ESRAG, which is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. They have a whole list of projects that they do in the space of environmental sustainability. So Rotarians for Bees, how to do plant-based meals, ocean cleanups, and they also have a whole host of resources around how to run an environmentally sustainable project. So that's one example. Obviously, there's about 20 or 30 that are listed there. But again, good ways to be inspired and connect with people who are interested in, similar causes as well. Now, the other thing I would say is partners. Local councils are trying to do a lot in this space, particularly for the vulnerable in their community, be it continuing Meals on Wheels services, trying to ensure that mental health services are maintained as well. So if you're not already connected with, your local council or your local member, there's a good opportunity. At least reach out. If they don't respond because they've got everything under control, then that's awesome. But I can assure you that, there's lots of groups that are looking for support at the moment, and if Rotary can help to fill those holes, then that's obviously really helpful. And then the last one, which I think is a really, really valuable one and probably underrated, is working on your own club. So making a project to work on your own club. Now, what do I mean by this? Often we talk about, wanting to put in, strategic plans, or wanting to create, membership plans, or wanting to create marketing campaigns for our club, or wanting to make improvements. Now that we have a forced pause on some of our operations, there's a really good opportunity to build a really strong and healthy club so that when we are able to meet face-to-face again, we've actually kind of got all of our, backdoor operations humming really well. So obviously some of you will be coming from really strong Rotary clubs that are growing really well. Others might be struggling right now, and this is a good opportunity for you to actually come together and say, all right, well, given we can't do some of the projects in the community that we want, we can work on ourselves. Now, the reason that I feel like this is particularly valuable, there was a PR campaign that was conducted by a competing community service organisation around, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago. There were lots of public banners near train stations, billboards, etc. And lots of people at this time were saying, all right, well, if Lions is running this PR campaign, why can't Rotary do the same? And the thing was that Rotary doesn't have a recruitment issue, it has a retention issue. So Lions got lots of new people coming to their coming to their Lions meetings, but when they came, they found that it was actually, the same traditional Lions clubs that they'd previously been exposed to. So what was advertised wasn't actually what they received. So this is a really good opportunity to similarly, bring together and create a stronger club internally, so then you can attract more people into the organisation. I think what we'll see as well is there are going to be a lot of people who want to help, a lot. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to actually, for Rotary to serve as a channel to bring those people in the community who want to help into our projects and that as well. So while people may be concerned at the moment about us losing membership, I actually think this is a really, there's a significant potential for us to actually gain a lot of membership out of this as well. Now, how do you work on your own club? Some of you might have already had some training. Others might have had your training called off for now. Others might be having remote training coming up. But there is a strategic planning guide that's online. There is actually, Rotary International has an action plan. So if you go to the strategic planning guide, it'll talk about how you can actually develop a strategy for your club, which is really cool. And it actually guides you through everything around how to look at how your club's going now, what's a vision, how to make a plan, etc. And there's a whole host of things that you can do on your club. So if you're worried about not being able to do as much in your community as you want to do, there's heaps that you can do in terms of giving your club a really solid base and foundation as well. So it's just a nice little workbook, and there's lots of additional information on how to do that as well. So all those things that you haven't had time for in the past, we now have time for, which is really, like I said, a good opportunity. Now, heading into kind of the back half of things, remote project management. I can appreciate that if you haven't run a project remotely as well, before, you might think that it's either really challenging to do, or it's really hard, or it's not possible, or how do you do things when you're not face to face? The three groups that I've got listed here, so RYLA Oceania, the Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee, and Rotaract Australia, are all groups that I've worked in where we've had to work remotely. With Rotaract, when I was Chair of Rotaract Australia, all of our board members came from different cities around Australia. We'd meet monthly online, to track our progress, talk about the other things that we wanted to do. Our Australian Rotaract Conference, which is ARC, used to get organised completely online as well, because we had organising committees from all over Australia as well. I am part of the RI Strategic Planning Committee, and we're all going to meet. We were supposed to go to Chicago. We're not going to Chicago anymore. We're all dialing into a Zoom meeting in a couple of weeks' time. And RYLA Oceania, which I talked about before, we organised a whole RYLA program with never meeting in person. So it was really cool when we actually did meet in person, to be like, oh, cool, it's finally nice to see you in the flesh. There are a number of initiatives that have been doing remote project management for a long time. These are a couple of examples that I've had experience with, but there are lots out there. So my point is that there's lots of people who can help on the project management front as well. Now, how can we learn? So one of the things we like about guest speakers is learning something new, perhaps learning a new skill. So in terms of our leadership development during this time, the first thing I'd suggest to do is connect with other Rotaractors and Rotarians. So whether it's getting Rotaractors or those digitally savvy Rotarians to help you with technology, that's a skill building exercise in itself. Developing PR campaigns and, developing a website or things for your club. And on the flip side, mentoring. So having Rotarians mentor Rotaractors during this time as well. There's an opportunity if, depending on what your, professional background is or was, to connect in with Rotaractors who are also looking to pursue similar fields. one of the things that I feel about Rotarians is that they completely undervalue themselves and don't appreciate how much value they have to offer. So as a younger person, I really encourage you to identify what it is you're good at and what the experience that you have, and tell people about it so that they can learn from you as well. We've also got the Rotary Learning Centre. So the Learning Centre is this one. So online, there's actually a whole heap of courses on the Rotary Learning Centre as well. So if professional development is something that you're particularly passionate about, it's logged me out. There is an online platform that essentially enables you to look at a whole host of videos that have been recorded, things like building a diverse club, how to run meetings. We'll see if it jumps back up, but that's okay. We can provide a link to the Learning Centre so that you can continue your professional development. One of the things that we do is book clubs. So whether we read, someone's biography, or, you could even do this as a social thing as well. If you all agree to read the same book and then jump on Zoom to discuss it, or if you don't want to use Zoom, even just share an email or a Facebook post and, ask everyone what they thought about it. And then TED Talks is the other thing as well. So in the absence of guest speakers, we have this beautiful thing called TED, which has topics on everything that you can imagine. This is just things that are more recent. Everything from my philosophy for a happy life to why people believe they can't draw, why you should quit social media. Perhaps it's not the time to watch that one. Fighting for disability rights, how to be more mindful. There are thousands of TED Talks from high-profile people as well. Interestingly enough, Bill Gates did a TED Talk 5 years ago that talks about how we are not ready for the next health epidemic, which is very interesting watching. Jump onto TED. Now, lastly, how do we stay inspired? So TED and a whole host of those platforms can really do a lot of that work for us. But there's things like, hearing a little bit more about our members. I heard at President's Training last Saturday that one of our clubs in our district gets 3 people when they do have a face-to-face meeting. And again, there's no reason why this can't be done in Zoom. They get 3 people to tell them, to sit in a hot seat, and they get asked things about what was their career like. What were their career paths? What were their highlights? What's the biggest things they learned? So they actually interview their members, and they find that their members are really interesting people, which is not at all surprising. Similarly, looking towards other clubs as well. So we don't live in a bubble. Yes, we want to maintain our existing clubs, but we're also not bound by those clubs. So how do we connect with the clubs around us to see what it is that they're doing? What are their members like? Maybe you are guest speakers for each other, during this period. Or if you want, whether it's people like myself or the people that Kara have had speak on Membership Voice before, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to do that too. We've had a lot of districts who've just had to cancel their conferences. So let's look at how do we get the agendas from those conferences and get some of those people who are supposed to speak to still speak through a video recording. Rotary International has so much content online as well. If you go to the Rotary International website, there is so much there that has inspiring stories, projects that people are doing, how people are getting through adversity. There's a blog that talks about how people create innovative clubs, how they do water and sanitation projects, absolutely everything. So much within our own network. Outside of our own network, there's a whole host of small community initiatives that are popping up at the moment, like swapping supermarket supplies, because a lot of supermarkets have run out of product. There's also I saw this, the kindness pandemic, which was all around. It's done by an aged care group, so it's looking at intergenerational kindness. So how can we be kind to each other across generations? They have a Facebook page. If you search the kindness pandemic, they're trying to create, small acts of kindness on an ongoing basis. And I also just wanted to quickly touch on, some of the leaders that we've had in the past. There's a whole host of quotes, actually, historical quotes. So if you're interested in history, this gentleman spoke at the Rotary Convention back in 1921, so nearly 100 years ago now. Rotary's strength lies in the sincerity of purpose of its members. So what's the purpose that our members are here for? And then Paul Harris, perhaps dreaming's not so bad if one dreams good dreams and makes them come true. So I think this is a great time to have a strong vision and look at how we action that. Now, in regards to next steps, there's some key points that I think are relevant in regards to next steps. So I mentioned establish your why, define where you want to get to. So if it's holding the fort, that's totally fine. Just work out what the best way is to stay connected. If it's developing a new project, work out what that project is and how to build it from there. Once you understand where you're at now and where you want to get to, you can create a strategy, which then you can start to implement specific actions in and around that. And ongoing revision is really important because sometimes you'll find that you'll test something. So maybe you'll test having a Facebook group, but people aren't using it. So you move to Zoom instead or whatever that looks like. So the ongoing revision part's really important. Now, an example of next steps for a club. Firstly, I'd recommend, just connect with your neighbouring clubs in your districts. You don't have to do this in isolation. Perhaps you all work together. I know that we've got 3 clubs in the middle of Sydney, for example. Maybe there's an opportunity for all of the Sydney city clubs to actually, work together on their remote engagement rather than trying to duplicate it or triplicate it a couple of times. Nominate a couple of digital champions. So who are the people in your club that are best placed to be able to execute on these initiatives? Because they're the ones who are going to be able to set this sort of stuff up and bring everyone on the journey. I'd recommend creating a Facebook group. It's just probably one of the easiest things that you can do right now, particularly if all of your members are on Facebook. If you know that your members aren't, then obviously don't look at doing that. But it's a really good place to start and have these conversations. You might then decide that you want to look at other eClubs. Every eClub's different. Some eClubs dial in at the same time every week. Other eClubs have a blog, like the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Our new club doesn't have meetings at all. So see what other people are doing, see how it works, so then you can look at implementing it in your own club. Then work out what the best platform will be and the best structure for you, build out your content, and then help each other. So have your early adopters help the majority to then help the laggards, and ultimately be people of action. So where can you learn more? So there's a couple of things I've put in here. I mentioned that there's a How to Use Zoom in Your Rotary Club training session tomorrow. It's on at 7 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, I believe. It's being held around the globe. This is a hyperlink to that meeting, so I can get that circulated pretty quickly. If there's specific training that you want, so if any of these things are interesting and you want to explore it further, let us know and we can create either further Zoom meetings or even look at smaller group training as well to help you set stuff up. Visit the Rotary Learning Centre, have a look at the strategic plan site, and connect with other Rotary clubs and districts to share best practice. Some people, I know that some districts are implementing they've got disaster plans that they need to activate at the moment. So, they're kind of knee deep in that, and they've got some really good tools to share as well. The very final things I wanted to share before we jump into questions is kind of regrounding us back to why we're here and what's next. Every problem is an opportunity in disguise. As I mentioned, the heart of Rotary is community service, and we need community no more than now. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's all really about let's work together here. While we're all in a reactive space, there's an opportunity for us to still collaborate and support each other so that we can all get through this challenging time. And then I want to just bring us back to my first point, which we reflected on, which was never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And then here's my contact details. So if you want to connect with me on Facebook, friend me now. If you want to send me an email, please do so. Facebook's where I reply quicker, just FYI. But if you prefer email, that's okay. I just might not get to it straight away. If it's particularly urgent, we can look at Zoom meetings and the like as well. But I'm very happy to help people. Really want to ensure that all of our clubs feel supported and that they can continue to move forward in this time as well. So with that, I'll hand back over to Kero. I see that the chat's been quite active while I've been talking. So hopefully we can now delve into some relevant elements for you. Over to you, Kero.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's great. I do have a number of questions that I've drawn from the chat. So let's jump into those.
Yep.
One I think that was on a number of people's minds from Liz. Can we have a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yes, I'm happy. Normally I protect my PowerPoints, and I don't mean that in a professional way, but normally it's if they're things that I keynote on, normally I'll say I'll provide resources, but not the PowerPoint specifically, because I don't like people copywriting my work. But this is a completely different situation, and I'm very happy for everyone to take it, copyright it, share it, do whatever you can with it. Go, go, go.
Super. Fantastic. Thanks, Beck. Now, an early question from Adele, and I just want to make sure that I've got the context correct here. Adele wrote, what is the difference to a group in Messenger? I believe it was talking about a Facebook group, contrasting a Facebook group to a group in Messenger.
All right, to a group in Messenger. Yeah, that's easy. That's okay. That's a good, can Adele confirm that that's the question that is the question? Is that right? We'll take that as a yes for now.
Yes, take it as a yes.
All right, so a group in Messenger.
No, sorry, there's come through WhatsApp. There was a comparison between WhatsApp and Messenger.
The short answer is none. So the only difference is that with WhatsApp, all you need is a mobile phone number. With Facebook Messenger on your phone or Facebook Messenger, sorry.
It says in Messenger, so I'll take that as Facebook Messenger.
Okay, so Facebook Messenger, you generally need to have a Facebook account. WhatsApp, you just need a phone number. So everyone who has a mobile phone number can access WhatsApp without needing to access Facebook, whereas to access Facebook Messenger, you need to have a Facebook account.
Okay, now we have another question here. Trevor would like to know more about Zoom. So I think that perhaps we could take that as a vote for a separate Zoom session, but maybe we could share the link to tomorrow morning's Zoom presentation so that Trevor might be able to either catch that live or watch the recording.
I've just put a copy in the chat.
Yeah, well, let's put it in the Facebook group as well, because the chat's going to be a little bit ephemeral, whereas the Facebook event, is more enduring.
That's a good point. Let me do that now. Do you want it on membership voice or in the event?
Perhaps put it in the event.
Yeah.
I think I'll share it more widely on membership voice a little later, but I think in the event at this stage. While you're doing that, I might put the next one to you from Rotary 9560.
Mm-hmm.
Comment, recently used Zoom for a binodal conference. In other words, as I understand it, 2 rooms full of people talking to one another. So you had two sort of face-to-face events, meetings connecting. Successful, but is there a better option for one group to talk to another group?
When you say one group to talk to another group...
Well, it says, I'll read that again, recently used Zoom for a binodal conference between 2 groups in different centres.
I mean that 2 groups of people were in 2 different rooms?
Yep, that's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, in that case, what have I used for that in the past? I think really what I've used is not use the video option because the video... actually, no, the only way that I've done it in groups like that is to actually have much more sophisticated software, as in we've done it with a corporate organisation where we've had what's called Global Connect and you all see each other and the like. What I would instead recommend in those situations is not to have the video, just to do audio. And then that way you can, whether it's putting, someone's laptop or phone or whatever it is on speaker, you should put yourself on mute when the others aren't talking. And if you want to share slides, have a host of the meeting. And then try to have a monitor that you can connect a laptop into, or even a TV screen, so that everyone can see the presentation at the same time. But in terms of just a platform that solves that for you, not that I'm aware of other than expensive, sophisticated.
I might just add something to that, because we have done a bit of work on this. Where you have for example, two meetings connected by video, you've actually got a real complicating factor, because you can have a whole lot of non-verbal communication happening between those groups. So if there's a discussion going between two groups, it does mean that you'll have different levels of interaction between the participants, and that's possibly why it didn't work brilliantly. And the other thing is, if you're doing a Zoom presentation to a live presentation, and you're also doing it on Zoom, be aware that that's a very complex thing to do. And what usually happens is that, especially for people who haven't done much on Zoom, they'll focus on the live audience, and their Zoom audience, will suffer. So it's a good idea not to mix the two, unless you've got someone who's very, very experienced in doing it. A comment, coming back to this, a comment from Les: MailChimp is a great resource, and he observes, as is Humanitics for events.
Yes, that is fair. So yeah, Humanitics, for people who don't know, is a non-profit or social enterprise event platform. I think Humanitics probably even uses MailChimp themselves. But yeah, it is a great platform. It's relatively easy to use once you get the hang of it. And yeah, happy to, if people need help on MailChimp, we can do MailChimp training, but it's great.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we might discuss perhaps doing some focused webinars on some of these things where there might be gaps, but obviously there's a lot of stuff out there that we might be able to use. Adele posed a question regarding the meeting blog. How long would this type of meeting take to set up?
That's a good question. The way that Silicon Valley does it, I can probably get into it. I think the in terms of how long it takes to set up is how long's a piece of string. How much do you actually want to include? Is it as simple as president's message, a guest speaker, and having the comment section? If so, that's pretty simple. You just got to record a video. We upload ours to YouTube. So there is a YouTube Rotary eClub Silicon Valley account. And if you were to get on there, all of our past, there are 254 videos. There you go. You want some inspiration? So yeah, meeting programs from previous years, going back years and years and years now. But yeah, so everything is on there. So if you wanted to keep your meeting as simple as, there we go, this is last week's meeting, this week's meeting. If you want to keep things as simple as a message from the president, recording your meeting, and then, having the comments, super, super easy. In that respect, it would only take, honestly, like 15 minutes to half an hour to do. Silicon Valley's takes a lot more time, because you can see it's a lot more comprehensive. If I should have. Let me try and find it very quickly. This isn't to scare people though. Because it is a little bit scary. It's all right. It's not going to come out easy. They basically have an Excel document that tracks all of the content for each of their meetings. So we've got, for example, one person that's responsible every week for the jokes. It's Yvonne. Where's Yvonne? Here we go. Lady of Laughter with Yvonne. So Yvonne will put all of the jokes into an Excel document, and then they've got one person who then pulls all of the content together. So Yvonne will say, these are what the jokes are. We've got a Rotarian who shares a photo every week, so he'll upload his photo. So that's Keith. So Keith will say, this is the photo. So then you need one person who's going to collate all of that stuff. This takes them a long time because there's a lot of stuff there. To be honest, I think it needs to be this comprehensive. I think it's a good way to provide a lot of variety, and a good way for people to have ownership over a different topic as well. Like, it's great. Yvonne gets to do the jokes every week, and that's something for her to do with our club. But it doesn't need to be this comprehensive. You could easily do, like I said, President's Message. If you normally do birthdays in your newsletters, you could do that, have some jokes, and then, yeah, everything else. We've still got Happy Dollars. So I should have mentioned that, actually. So in the same way people do either Happy Dollars or a Sergeant session at their normal Rotary Club, our site actually has a built-in donation platform. So you can still do your Sergeant sessions or Happy Dollars online. Again, a little bit more complicated, but possible. So yeah, it's how detailed do you want to make your meeting, and how simple do you want to make it? If you're holding the fort, keep it simple. If you actually want to look at this longer term, then you can start to look at building it out, and I can connect you with the guys who run this site each week.
Thank you. The next question from Erin. How do you use Teams with external people? I thought it was only for a single organisation.
Great question. So for big corporates, generally big corporates have their own license. And yes, you're right. If I previously worked for Johnson & Johnson. We had Teams. Only people from Johnson & Johnson with our Johnson & Johnson email could access our Teams site. That's part of J&J's license in having a paid Teams service. This Teams service is free. And the way that we protect it is that if I go to, Rotary Social Impact Network, add a member, I can put anyone's email in here whatsoever, because ours is a free site. It doesn't have the security that a corporate does in saying only people with our email can join. So you can have anyone in there, which is really cool. Corporates pay to only have corporates in their site. And in clarifying, it doesn't mean that anyone can access this. They still have to be invited. It's just that obviously corporates are protecting their company from someone within their company inviting someone outside their company into their company, if that makes sense.
I think it does. A quick question about Silicon Valley. How many members does Silicon Valley have?
Silicon Valley currently has about 40 to 50 members. I think their ability to scale is a lot more significant than that. As you can see, our new Rotary Club has 250 potential members. I would say that they, to some extent, haven't really focused on an active membership campaign. They've just had people come to them. So the 50 people or 45 people that they've got have either been recommended or have found themselves there. That sort of platform should be able to scale a lot more. They'll probably have a lot more after all of this.
Fair enough. Thanks, Beck. Another question from Adele, just to clarify. The Coffee with a Rotarian, is that via Zoom or face-to-face?
Well, it can be either. We do ours via Zoom because we're all based all over the world. The way that we do it, it's actually in our meeting. Coffee with a Rotarian. So, yeah, here's two people. This is Raquel and Nan from California. So they have logged into Zoom to have theirs together. If you were practicing social distancing and it was approved by your club, in theory you could catch up face-to-face. We're not in full lockdown yet, so I'll leave those decisions up to you. But in our club, it's all done via Zoom.
Fair enough. Thanks, Beck. A question from Kate. How much does it cost to have a premium account for Zoom? I'm assuming that that's discussing a pro account. I learned from my RYLA Oceania Zoom meetings that have a free account only provides a maximum of 40 minutes. The question is, what is a pro account?
You know that answer more than I do.
Yeah, well, I do know that there's a 20% discount on it, but I believe that cuts in. That cuts in when you buy multiple accounts. I'm not sure the discount actually applies on one, but I'll tell you what, we'll check on that. we'll check on that because there is some fresh information about Zoom, and we'll post that via the Membership Voice Facebook page. So we'll get the latest guff on that. A question from Paul regarding Zoom meetings. How do you let everyone contribute? Do you pass the mic or chat?
That's nice. So generally it's in the same way that you would have a chair of a face-to-face meeting, I would have a chair of a Zoom meeting, and that person would know what the agenda is. I'd circulate the agenda in advance so that your members have an understanding of when people can jump in. I think a really effective way is in the same way that Kero at the moment, so everyone's posting their questions in chat, and then Kero's selecting questions so that we can ensure that everyone had a voice, because if we just had everyone's mics on, you can guarantee that, the more extroverted people would be the ones who would be taking up that space, same as what happens every day. I would recommend questions and comments to go in the chat, and then you as the host or the chair draw on people. And what you can do, so Kero at the moment is repeating your questions to me. What you can do though is we could be saying for you to actually unmute your mic and ask the question. So we've kept this quite tight given how many people are on the call. But yeah, you could easily say, for example, if someone had a comment. So Kate Edwards was talking about, wanting a Zoom Pro account. We could say, Kate, can you just clarify? And we could unmute her, and Kate could, go, yeah, that's what I mean. This is what I'm looking for. Or they can tell a story. That's my particular advice. Kara, what's your perspective? Because you also have quite extensive Zoom experience.
Well, we use Zoom in a different way or we meet in a different way. My Rotary Club, which is Rotary Club of Western Australia, also known as EWA, uses Zoom every Monday night. And one of the protocols we've brought in is to use the hand up option, which is available in your participants list. When we're discussing something, we ask people to flag at the chair that they want to say something by putting their electronic hand up, and if and that way we have a pretty civilised sort of discussion. You don't have to use that, but it is an option and it's built into Zoom.
The other thing, which I've just remembered, I 100% agree with the hand up function. There's also a couple of apps. So one's called Slido, another one's called Mentimeter. And these are essentially apps that enable you to interact with your audience in a controlled way. Examples would be, so we used this at work recently where we wanted all of our employees to do a survey on employee engagement. We wanted it to be anonymous. As you can imagine, same thing. Imagine your Rotary Club wanting to do a survey on how your club is, but you don't want everyone disclosing how they feel. We did it through this app called Slido. I'm just trying to see if it'll let you do this. There we go, live poll. Let's see if it'll show it up. Oh, it's going to make me play a video. But basically, people can log in and you can see, let me just see, it shouldn't be long. Oh, a minute. That's all right. We'll do it.
Live polls are a great...
Basically, you can log in and people can vote on everything, and you see the results all come up in front of you without actually knowing who was attributed to each answer. I could do a whole nother session on Slido and Mentimeter, but they're just other additive tools. The simple answer, though, is the hand up tool.
Yeah, you can use the built-in poll tool in Zoom. It's quite useful. We've come to the end of our list of questions. A whole lot of people have said thank you. I would just want to add one thing. Rob Byrne has very kindly pointed out that with the link that the discount on Zoom is per account. You don't need multiple accounts to get it, which is great news. Thanks, Rob. So we're going to get those details up on the membership voice page, or you can pick them up from Rob's link in the chat. But at this stage, we don't seem to have any more questions. I think we've exhausted Good ideas from you both. Thanks to Rotary Awards. No more questions there. So is there anything you wanted to say in closing?
I just want to say that I guess I just want to wish everyone well, but not in a goodbye kind of way. In a we're all in this together. Let's work together and continue to work together and support each other. So it's not goodbye. It's see you later. In that we're finished tonight, but let's continue the dialogue so that we can find the solutions that are going to work for all of you during this time. And thank you again for all of your dedication here tonight in supporting all of your clubs.
Right, and we'll put a link to the PowerPoint in the event.
Yeah, we'll put it in the Facebook event, and then people can email it if they need to.
Fantastic, that's great. Well, on behalf of the audience and membership voice, Beck, another fabulous presentation. Bearing in mind that Beck put this together in about a day and a half, having previously presented on a similar topic, she's built more and done an absolutely brilliant job. A long presentation, but a fairly crucial one at what I think is a fairly important time in the history of Rotary. So thank you, Beck. But on that note, everyone, we'll say good night and be prepared for more from Membership Voice and Beck on related to these topics. So good night, everyone.
Thanks, Kara. Good night, everyone.